The world of marketing is changing, and to keep pace with it, you need to create a new point of view that is original, authentic, and engaging. How to go about doing that? Stay tuned to the Marketing Redefined show. Hi, Piyush. Welcome to our show, Marketing Redefined. How are you?
I'm Muskan. Thank you. I'm doing very good. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm actually very excited about this interview. And to start it off, I would really like to go ahead and ask you about yourself. Please tell us something about yourself.
You know, generally there are very few people who ask me that. It's just the first question is, because we are in the metaverse space, people ask me, okay, what are you doing there? So there is rarely people come in, how are you, or who you are. I'm glad you're asking this question. But I have to say, I'm happy to be part of this show. I've listened to you, earlier some of your podcasts. I think you're doing a phenomenal job. So I have to congratulate you.
Thank you.
Who am I? Okay. By heart, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an innovator. I like doing things uh, which others are not doing. I like looking forward in the consumer space, in the marketing space, and saying, okay, how can I impact that space before anyone else? I take a pride in that. So that's who I am. And what I've been doing is I've been running organizations for almost a decade and a half or so. The first was I was running a sales and marketing organization, and then kind of running a tech marketing organization. So in that sense, it's I just love scaling up organizations from one country, multiple countries in that sense, right? And I think what I've enjoyed doing this in almost these 2 decades uh, is working with younger talent. I think the energy that they give is just phenomenal. So hence, if you look at it, I always work with people who are younger than me and better than me. So that kind of keeps me young. Honestly, age is catching up, so I still have to kind of how do I kind of take care of that aspect of it. So that's who I am, and I enjoy traveling. I travel a lot. People are really worried about mostly the family that okay, when are you back home? But I kind of travel a lot, meet a lot of people, enjoy talking about. Now the new passion is tech, so I really enjoy talking about tech to people across the world. So that's who I am.
Wow, that is a lot of things packed in one person. But how did this transition happen, Piyush, from marketing to then investing your time into technology? How did you decide that?
Glad you asked that question. I was sitting with someone yesterday, and I was just naturally throwing some jargon, not knowing that it is jargon for the other person in the tech space. And this individual has known me for a very long time. And then, you know, haven't heard something like this, from your side, earlier. So did you always knew it, or you kind of, gone through that learning curve? So I said, you know, before I jumped into tech, my tech knowledge was like just nothing because I am a hardcore sales and marketing guy, trying to sell or market products for our customers to their consumers. So that's what I've been doing, from background point of view, right? And then when I moved to tech, it was so what I like as an person is I kind of say, okay, what is the future, and then I get there. I think the tech journey also happened that way. While we were, for about a decade and a half or so working on the sales and marketing space, we realized that the next revolution in this space would be the tech space, right? The marketing technology space. And I started jumping in there, and when I get in, I get in like, okay, I have to know it. It's not just a knowledge from the top view, but can I go in deeper? It took a while. I'm still learning, honestly, but I have had good people around me, who would bear with my stupid questions that I ask and say, this guy is running a tech organization and he's asking this kind of a question. But then thankfully, their patience helped me learn through it. So there was a time when I was, learning blockchain, and I was, who was teaching me. There was a fresh graduate from a technology institute who came on board. learned about it, and then he would take classes. I would call it classes because it would go on for 3 hours, 4 hours, and I would ask questions which are like, why is he asking these questions? But that's how the transition has happened, and I think I just love what I do right
Wow, I think so. It's a very overused line, but you're never too old to learn
now. I agree.
anything. And the fact that you actually enjoyed it is why you survived for 3 hours. Because I am me, I cannot imagine myself learning blockchain or some so trivial concept like that for like 3 hours. So kudos to you, first of all. And I can totally relate, Piyush, because me, myself, being from a marketing background, I too have just started right now. And I'm just learning constantly, and I have to evolve also at the same time because the times are changing and the technology is rapidly coming into our lives. And, knocking at the door and being like, you have to pull up with me, otherwise, you don't have any scope in this
Absolutely.
industry. Moving from there to your brand VOSMOS, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. What is VOSMOS? How did you start it? Where is it going?
You pronounce it perfectly right. So that's a good part of it. And some people are able to get the term. So VOSMOS stands for virtual cosmos. So, right,
Oh,
the
okay.
virtual cosmos. So which means that we are in the virtual world
Yeah.
building a universe. So we're building a virtual universe. That's
Nice.
what VOSMOS stands for. And again, it's been a journey we've evolved, right? We kind of seen the trend on, how people consume content online, right? And where will the world go from here on? People are talking about Web3 and stuff like that. But instead of Web3, we wanted to say, okay, if the transition has to happen, how will it happen? And that's where Wasmos came in. Uh, Wasmos has four pillars to it, right? We wanted to build something which is immersive and beautiful, which is engaging, which is easy to use, and which is data driven. So these are four aspects of VOSMOS, which is there, and I'll cover that, in next few lines. But just to give you what we do in that space, how you consume content right now, we're trying to make sure that your online world becomes better. So we're not in the space of changing a physical world, but we're in the space of making your online world better. So, for example, the stuff that we're doing right now, or conversations we're having conversations on virtual hospitals, virtual universities, virtual hotels, virtual retail stores, virtual art galleries, and all of that, right? So if you look at it, when I'm talking about it, while a lot of people put us in the metaverse space, but we say that we are a meta commerce platform, right? And Wasmos, if you look at
Oh,
it, it's a, and I don't know if you've heard this term earlier, but the reason we kind of, you know went ahead with this term rather than the very commonly known metaverse term is because, we what we believe is, that if this whole piece has to survive, commerce has to happen. Only gamification will not help, this whole concept survive, right? And unfortunately, the entire world talks about gamification here, but Wasmos is a meta commerce platform, and hence what we're doing is, when I'm talking about virtual stores, right? We are actually helping brands go online, build a store, and sell from there, right? So you actually seeing the outcome with which you want to see in an immersive platform rather than just the gamification part of it, right? And that's where it comes in. That if I have to take the consumer from where they are to a immersive world, right? It needs to be beautiful. We all thrive on the look part of it, right? It needs to look nice. And if you look at it, whenever you get a chance to experience it, go experience Cosmos.world, you'll see that every aspect of it is, that gives you a little bit of an aha moment. And I'm not talking just from an Indian context. Over the last few years, we've shown it to people across the globe. And the joy that it gives when people see it and then say, oh, we've not seen something like this. This is so beautiful, right? So you have to experience it. I can't really kind of tell you. So that's where the beauty and the immersive piece comes in for us, right? Again, if one has to be online, then engagement becomes super critical. You just can't go, look something and get out of it, right? So hence the amount of conversation, or you know conversation that one can do online in Wasmos is really amazing. So you can do chats, you can build your own networks, you can, there is selfie, there is quizzes, there is polls, there is almost everything one needs to, uh, be on a platform like that and then not get lost or not get bored. Right? So that's where the engagement comes in. Right? The third is the data-driven part of it. Everything we do that becomes important. Data becomes super critical. So a world where when you go online, eventually it is your world. It is not a world that I have built and then you are walking in. It's a world that understands you and then gets customized basis who you are. Right? And that's where the data piece comes in. And the fourth piece, which I think we are doing very differently, and that is where VOSMOS kind of stands out, is we believe to do it for the larger audience than just the set of people who are fairly tech savvy. So hence we are not focusing on the VR devices and AR devices because what I feel is that's still a long way where each one of us will carry a VR device and roam around and consume content. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, right? So if I have to kind of make this available for larger audience, then it had to be done in a way where you can use most of the content on your smart device, and that's where the ease of use comes in, right? So that's where Wasmos is right now. It's not replacing your physical world, but it's basically enhancing whatever you do online, right? From learning to play to shop to interact, you know work. Can we make it better? Can we make it more impactful? Can we make it more immersive? That's what Wasmos is.
Wow. I mean, I think so that this is really wonderful, and I need to check the Cosmos world first and really learn for myself also because with the changing times, I need to be updated. And this sounds really great. And I think so. You touched some nerve when you were entering with Cosmos and a concept like this because I was talking to this brand only yesterday, and the founder was into retail and e-commerce both. So I know that retail has a very special place and it plays the role that is not replaceable as of yet. And the feel, the psychology that a human being works with is that retail can never be replaced. You can never replace an experience that you get when you walk into a store and really touch and feel the products or services that they have to provide. But at the same time, to reach that level with e-commerce and with such virtual reality is really amazing. And I think so you actually touched that nerve and are bringing something different to the users so that not only retail but the e-commerce experience also becomes as nice as possible. And talking about that only, now you are actually a force in the marketing world from what I've heard and from what you've told me. So where do you see this headed? Like, when technology is holding its hand, where do you see it headed? What's its future?
You've been kind of, thank you so much for saying that. But uh, I've enjoyed my journey uh, in the sales and marketing space, and I've seen how things have evolved from pure, on ground marketing to digital to tech playing a bigger role, right? And I see that more and more that will happen. More and more tech and marketing will, join hands. And when I say tech, I'm just not talking regular tech, but I'm also talking data. So these three, a combination of it, will play a very big role in how a marketer, you and me are marketer in some sense, right? How we kind of plan our strategies across when we are wanting to reach out to a particular target audience, that becomes very important, and tech will play a big role in that space. And even for the consumer, right, who's trying to consume content, when people like us are marketing, right, they will start seeing it differently when they look at tech, because the amount of information which they already are exposed to is huge, right? I think tech will then start playing a role and saying, do you want to see this? Do you don't want to see? I know you better. So hence, this might make sense for you. And, consuming content online might make more sense. I can go deeper into it if you want to. Uh, you touched about the whole e-commerce part of it, right? And I'll kind of just give you an example how marketing and tech can play a role in this.
Sure.
Look at it. You go online, you shop. It's a just an experience. It's not really giving you a huge uh, touch on, oh yes, I enjoy this space. Okay, I'm there in e-commerce space. I like this. It's on discount. Let me buy it, and if I want, I can return it. That's kind of look at the mind. How can tech play a role in this? I think the tech plays a role in this. If you look at the virtual stores that we're talking, right? You're literally walking into a store, which is as close to a on ground experience which is there, and then almost like touch and feel. And I'm sure as the tech evolves, you will be sitting at home and try the entire piece. With AR it is possible. How can we do it without AR? I don't know, but imagine that, and then taking a call and saying, hey, I am good with it. Let me buy it. Right. So the chance of you returning the product goes down because you've taken a more informed risk. Right? The other piece it plays is right now when you're buying it, you're rarely able to have a conversation with the sales executive. Right? The tech, because it's become so simple, you can actually have a conversation. In a store of ours, you can go and have a conversation with the tech with the sales executive and then buy. You will not return it, right? So while it kind of plays or impacts it from a marketing point of view, I think the sustainability part, which a lot of times in the conversation gets missed, is also important because currently, if you know, there is about 25 to 30% return ratio of the product that gets bought on e-commerce. Imagine, you know, trillions of dollars of industry, 25%, you know, uh, goes back. The whole wastage that happens because of this is humongous. Imagine if by tech playing a role in this, you can solve it and get it down by even half of it, right? It's huge saving across. I think I love the journey of how marketing and technology are coming together. One just has to embrace it and keep learning and evolving along with it.
True, very truly said. Because now I'm not sure about the brand, but it's a sports brand that came out with this idea that NFTs are a good way to save this wastage. Because through NFTs you're already booking your product or the shoe that you want to have, and it will be made only in that sense or only in that amount of number. So now you're actually cutting down of the wastage of the manufacturing, all the cost that goes behind it, as well as having some real time customers and some real time profit earlier on, and then you're providing it in the future. So I think so, with times changing, these things are coming in and making life more simpler. And the whole environment sustainability thing that we keep talking about and telling brands that you should cut down or you should do this, that, I think so it could also be taken into perspective with times that are coming in. And as you mentioned, Piyush, it really took me a while to understand, really. Because it's a good thought process, but at the same time, now there are traditional ways of building a brand, and ideology, but now they're soon getting replaced with our digital marketing campaigns and how we're looking at world, really. So do you think that they are changing these traditional ways, or do you think that they are there and moving ahead with the new times, or they are gonna be replaced now or like layered upon with this technology and the metaverse thinking?
I have to say this is a very good question, and I'm a marketer at heart. As much as I do tech, marketing is whom may I type? It's there. It's how it is, and I believe that traditional marketing cannot go. The way you build a brand has to continue. Digital marketing has come in, and I think it's been beautiful for a lot of people because what is done is it was almost impossible for a startup to reach out to the kind of customers that they can now. And digital marketing has played a role in that. It's just that you know what I believe is that it's what is not been able to do is build brands. You know, I've seen and we've done a research, we've spoken to a lot of people. A lot of times we go look at Instagram, there is an ad on for a product, you buy it, and next you don't know which product, you know the product that you bought, but you don't know the brand at all, right? So, and that's happened with me, and we've seen it happen with so many people that you just don't have a brand recall, that okay, I bought from Amazon, but you don't say I've bought, this brand, right? The bigger brands are okay because they've built it. They've followed the traditional way of marketing and they've built a brand. So hence people know about it. But what happens to the younger ones, the startups? How many startup brands we kind of really know that yes, they're doing, this exists. So hence I think then it will be more of a layering rather than replacing. Also, from where I see it, I hope people understand that. But with the investment community and all that, you all are looking for a quick buck, growth, all of that stuff, not seeing, okay, has it really making an impact in the customer space? What I feel is what the whole the virtual space can do, right, is bring back the sensory marketing. If you look at it, right, if you remember,
Right.
right, uh, the marketing books have always spoken about, the whole, the touch, the feel, the smell, the sense. It kind of helps you, you know, the colors, the music, right? It kind of helps you connect with the brand, which the
Yeah.
digital world unfortunately has taken that away because it doesn't give you that kind of opportunity. I think the virtual world will give that, right? The immersive world will, what you've seen is, look at it this way. If you are going and shopping online, right, you're looking from an e-commerce space, you get into a virtual world, right? As a brand owner, I'm a startup. I don't have the money to open up a store physically because it's expensive, and I have to rely on an Amazon and other e-commerce space to help push my product. But how do I build a brand? I think here is a store. You build your store with your colors, your music, your customer executive experience, the way you put the product, all of that stuff, and let the customer walk in. Right? What you've seen is invariably the customer remembers that, okay, I walked into a brand like this. I kind of walked into a store which kind of resonated with, right? And hence you will go back to the store. You not miss it that which was that brand, right? So hence, I think that's where the sensory marketing comes in with the virtual world, and then technology always kind of adds to it. So no replacement. It's just adding, and people who understand it will be able to create a brand. People who don't understand it will have a short term gain or up period, but otherwise, those brands will be forgotten.
I think so. Marketing is becoming more accessible now for brands like what you mentioned as we're getting into digital and all that. So I totally agree with your point. But a very small question to it was that for these startups that are coming in, do you think these startups are going to get affected with how digital is coming in a good way or in a bad way? Because they might not have, as you mentioned, these huge budgets for these campaigns that used to be in the earlier traditional marketing.
Oh, I think that's where the tech has to evolve, right? The startups will always benefit, right? That's something which is there. But the tech also has to keep their customer in the center of it, right? For example, when we are trying to build the whole virtual world, and for us, our first set of customers are brands, whether it is a startup or an enterprise trying to kind of connect with their customers. So we build everything around it. It means that can a tech organization make it easier for a startup to go online and then create their own experience? I think that's where the evolution has to happen. And that's a psyche change which has to happen in our country. Look at it this way. Suppose today, we're launching a product which is a DIY store. You can go and build a store of yours in 10 minutes and go live, right? Unfortunately, India doesn't have a very active DIY mindset that I will do it myself, right? You do it for me. I'm not going to do it, right? Whereas the Western world, they just do it themselves, and hence they are able to kind of adapt to tech like this and then build. Uh, I just hope that the younger generation, which is coming up with the whole startup concept and all, they're able to pick these aspects of it, because the moment you get into a service mode, then it is going to be expensive, right? And digital marketing is not going to be, you know, I should not say cheap. I don't like that word, but will it give you an ROI? I just don't know, because it is the top three, four who kind of rule digital marketing, right? While you have thousands of digital marketing agencies, eventually it all lands up to the top three, four, which you know what I'm mentioning, right? And it will. So hence, for startups, it just becomes difficult. For example, for us, when we were marketing in US, right, it was so expensive because we didn't have a control also, right? we put some money and hoping that people will see those ads and then come to us. Right? And that's where digital marketing kind of has its flaw from where I see it. Right, the whole CPC and all of that are numbers that come in digital marketing is just not good for a startup. Right, so I think hence if you create a brand, word of mouth still becomes the most effective way of marketing for a startup. Startup has to believe that. You know, Second is repeat customers. You kind of have to make sure that you once a customer continues to be a customer. Right? I think the virtual world will help you achieve that in a very very cost effective manner. Right? I think that's how I see uh, the tech or the virtual world supporting the startups.
But it actually reminded me of our own scenario right now, because podcast is a top of the funnel service for us, right? And that's when people come and tell us that how many downloads and impressions we'll get. So we tell them this only, that if you want this rapid to be rapidly famous instantly and all that, we can give you paid ads, but there is no guarantee that if you're going to get these views or customers or not. So it is a long term brand building thing. And any amount of marketing won't really matter if your product or ideology, or as you said, word of mouth is not strong enough. But coming to the question of the hour that even you mentioned, nobody asked me how are you doing, but everybody asks you what is going on in this world, is this only now that, Piyush, how do you think the metaverse will unfold and transform enterprises in the coming time?
I have to take a breath for that. I don't know, right? It's still early days for metaverse, but I can tell you, what you've seen from the conversation we've had with people across. And when I'm saying across, we've had conversation in India, we've had conversation in the APAC region, Middle East, quite a bit of conversation, US, a lot of conversation. We're going to Africa. Let's see what that country has to say. But, but what's happening is, uh, people want to kind of take the next step in the enterprise space, right? People want to say, okay, how do I kind of give my customers a better experience, right? They're all done with the whole website concept of it. Okay, I'll get my customer to my website and all that. There are very few kind of go and read the website these days, right? That whole concept of, okay, now everyone is saying video is a big thing. Now everyone is making video. Which video you will watch and which video you will not, right? And all these clicks and impressions are, games of numbers, right? You know how it works. So for enterprise, the way we've seen, like I said, there are people who are saying, uh, can I connect with my customer before the customer comes and speaks to me in a more transparent way? I think that's one thing which an enterprise will see. They are using this to bring in a lot more transparency to their customers uh, from from a virtual world or metaverse, uh, so to say, right? The other piece they're seeing is there are a lot of ROI from a cost efficiency point of view. Look at virtual events. Right? Just take that as an example. It's about $114 billion industry, right? And then still, if you look at it, you don't hear that too much. You still talk about webinars and all that. Imagine moving to a more experiential conversation. For example, we are talking, right? Imagine if we were talking in a more virtual, immersive world, right? When someone listens to us, they're also seeing the environment and all that, right? And then kind of the impact is, again, the ROI part of it. Right? You don't have speakers to fly in, you don't have customers to fly in, you can just do it virtually in an immersive manner, still tell your story. So that's the other part that is coming in, right? So then there's a lot of ROI in that aspect of it, and in enterprise, the whole learning part of it, the whole journey of how do I make sure that, when new joinees come in, for example, you were talking to a large automobile firm, won't name it. But the whole thing that we're talking about is how do we kind of build a system where learning can happen for people joining and trainers present across the globe in an immersive manner, right? So phenomenal in that space. So according to me, uh, every enterprise is visualizing it in their own space and then setting it up and using it. So you will see it. You'll see a lot of that coming in. And while we talk about enterprise, one huge change which we see will happen, and I hope in 12 months, in 24 months, when we talk again, this becomes a reality, is your enterprise is going to change their websites to an immersive website, and then
Oh,
everything is immersive. You have a product showcase which is happening in the enterprise space, in the B2B space, in a very immersive manner. People are coming in and, you know, seeing it. For example, we've done a project for a large tech brand which wanted to showcase their tech product as piece of art, tech product as piece of art. So we created a museum, immersive museum, and put it there. Now imagine when you kind of
wow.
walk in an immersive museum and see the product, you are able to kind of connect it
Yeah.
beautifully, right? Rather than, saying, rather than just talking. So, so
Hmm.
I think that's where the enterprise is using it, and every conversation is beautiful. It's just very, very exciting to see how beautifully people are thinking, not just what we are doing, but I think when we speak to the enterprise piece of it, when they tell that, can we do this? And we're like, we didn't think about it, but they're looking at it. For example, in US, a gentleman walked in and said, I like this. Can you use it? Can we make a virtual hospital? And honestly, I was blown away. I said, we've thought about everything else, but not hospitals, right? And the example the gentleman gave was beautiful. That, a lot of patients, when they walk into the hospital, they are already in a different state of mind. For them, to figure out things is so difficult. But if I can tell them beforehand how the facility looks like, how the whole piece works, how the procedure is going to happen, and let them experience that. So when they come in, they're mentally better prepared. I said that was, phenomenal in that sense.
Wow.
So I think
True.
it's about how enterprise, how creative the enterprise is, they'll be able to use it that way. It's a open clean canvas right now.
That's actually a very beautiful amalgamation of human brain creativity and actual virtual reality. So that's, I mean, to see what future holds is something really exciting. And I think so a lot could be done with it. And at the same time, now we discussed it a lot and we already see it with even your website and other websites doing it and all that, that marketing is already somewhere or the other affected by metaverse and this virtual reality. Do you agree to this?
Oh, it is absolutely. I don't think marketers can, close their eyes now. If in fact, the good thing about marketing community is that they're the first ones to adapt it in that sense, right? They'll say, okay, naya kya ho raha hai? What's new in the market? I want to kind of try it out. So
Yeah.
that's a beauty of this community, which is there, right? So hence, a lot of people are already, looking at it and saying, let me try, let's see what happens, right? So hence that, hence it's a important thing which marketers are picking it up. And what is one big thing that will happen in this space for marketers, and some of them are realizing it also, the whole marketing ad tech space which is there, right? In the metaverse, in the metacommerce space, how the ads will work, right? For the marketers, I think that's a learning phase for everyone. We are also talking to a lot of people. It's interesting how uh, people are either able to adapt to it, like we adapted to the digital marketing and the ad space in the digital marketing. That's where it will start
True.
coming in the ad space, in the metacomic space. So imagine if Muskan walks in, she sees ads which are related to her, and then the marketing team has to make sure that it makes sense, right? So and to the
True.
extent so that it will be able to tell the marketing team whether Muskan looked at the ad or not, right? Uh, so yeah, it just marketing has to kind of fall in place with this, and they'll enjoy it. I think people are just loving it. It's very refreshing.
But I guess that's why we believe that, conversations are the best starter. Because as you mentioned, marketeers are always, they have this curiosity factor that they want to learn all the time. So that's exactly what I'm doing with this show. I'm sitting here and learning all that I can from all of you talented people. But great insights, Piyush. And slowly and steadily we are coming to an end, sadly. But this question is now more on the a bit of the negative. I won't really say that because negative is a very
Mm.
huge word, but to more of a concern, sort of that, what exactly could be a very big concern about Meta or Metaverse in terms of branding and the service sector?
No, it's about how you look at it. Uh, Metaverse,
Hmm.
unfortunately, started with a lot of mindset of gaming and gamification. and a lot of people continue to put that up, right? So while there are brands who got onto metaverse, and trying to kind of launch their product and talk about that, it still revolves a lot around gamification, and I think that's where the slight challenge kind of continues. I've seen a lot of people talking about metaverse globally, but again trying to focus on, can I have an avatar, can I kind of create, get them to dance and jump and stuff like that, right, rather than focusing on the commerce part of it, right? I think that's where I see it. I'm a business guy, along with the marketing guy. For me, that ROI becomes very important, uh, and hence I think that's where I see a challenge, because what happens is, while uh, some people are talking about commerce, a lot of people are talking about gamification. So hence, a lot of people are getting switched off, saying that, okay, this is just not for me, or my customers are not going to kind of use it. If you have to download a 1 GB file or a 2 GB file, it's just impossible for most of the people to download and use it, right? So I think that's where I see as a challenge from an industry point of view. The faster people understand it and say, okay, I want to first get my customer from step one to step two, rather than from step one to step 10, things will become much better. And that's the only challenge. Otherwise, it's exploration world and it's just beautiful.
But that's actually daunting that, for two different people in a conversation, for example, they're talking about metaverse itself, but their language or their understanding could be really different from what the other person is understanding. So that's that's weird and maybe good at the same time. But great insights, Piyush. Had a lovely time talking to you and understanding really what is this world of metaverse and technology that is playing the role these days in marketing and branding and all that. So thank you so much for coming on the show and talking.
No, thank you so much. I enjoyed the conversation. If you were able to learn from it, I am glad, because that's the idea. To kind of share what we've been doing so far and learning. It is a journey, but yeah, it's just been fun. So thank you so much for having me in the show.